Welcome to the Ask Weldon Show, episode 129. Today we're going to talk about leading your team of friends, breaking a plateau, and building TRYHARD stamina. Thank you for joining me. Not many updates from yesterday, other than that we had record viewers on my stream for a talk show. I normally have never really broken 20 viewers for the talk show. That happens when I stream League of Legends, but not just me and the camera. So if you want to see this live, make sure to check out my Twitch. But otherwise, we should jump into the questions. And today we have 2 audio questions and 1 text question, and then I have a couple people who wrote into the audio station as well. So we're going to be listening to that, listening to our 2 questions, and then we'll also be recording them, of course, on the Anchor app so that you can follow along if you listen to the podcast. So why don't we jump into the first question?
Hello, I'm on school team, and I'm the highest elo player with Diamond 2, and I have to in-game lead plus coach plus shot call my 4 school friends, cause we're going on a school tournament, and they are all like low diamond and platinum. How do I approach the coaching and the building a team structure? We got 6 months time until the tournament starts.
Okay, let me see if I got all the details right here. So we have school team, school tournament, 6 months to go. You're Diamond 2. You have some high platinum, low diamond people, and you're going to be shot calling and leading the team and looking to build up a team structure. The only other information I would need is like how many times are you practicing a week and for how long. But I'm going to assume, let's say like 3 times a week as a team, which would be about average for a university squad. I don't know if it's university or high school. And let's say maybe like 1 or 2 games each time. Maybe 2 or 3 games, let's say. 3 nights a week. So, yeah, it's really tough to say at this point like what it is that you would need, but I think that it's really easy to create a priority list in my head of things that you probably need to work on and start with. So I would say like the number one thing to work on is getting an identity for how you're going to play as a team. Like getting a core. I don't think there's going to be a lot of spying. So getting a core composition of champions that work well together. Like, narrow your champion pool down to like 3 champions, 4 champions each if you can, and just spam those together all the time. Because the most important thing is going to be your skirmishing and your team fighting. Like there's so many mistakes that are made at that level of play that you can come back from almost any game once you group if you team fight well with your composition. And if you even if you have a deficit, right? If you know how to come back. So I would say like making the same comeback plays over and over and over again with the champions, making the same winning plays with over and over again with the same champions is going to give you the biggest advantage going into this style of tournament, like a school tournament. So I would say like first thing is to sit down in front of a whiteboard, have everybody write out their champion pools so everybody can see them, and then talk about like draft, like who has really good blind pick ability, like who in this meta and on your team do you want to like first pick, and who do you want to give the counter picks to? Who's like insecure or who can counter pick the best because they have the best counter pick champs, that can really like stomp a counter pick lane and then like carry, and figure that out, and then just draft that way the entire time you're practicing. And play those champions and those comps the entire time you're practicing, and then stick to them. That's going to be the hardest thing. You get on stage, you lose 1 game, you're like, oh, man, we got to play these other champs. These other champs are OP. No, you got to stick to your guns. You got to be like, okay, if we're not good enough on what we trained, we probably are just not good enough, and that's fine. So let's just have fun for the rest of this tournament and try hard with what we have. But personally, I think it'll give you a pretty big advantage if you stick to that kind of simplicity. So once you do, then how you organize practice is it's really simple. You play the game, then you watch the VOD. Just sit down around a shared monitor, push play, talk about, what you could do in each situation, and try to make it like general. Be like, don't be so specific. Like, oh, right here in this game, exactly this game, I should have done this thing. No, be like, okay, there's a pattern here. This might happen again this game, and so next time I should do this, that kind of thing. So try to And then the other thing is going to be like pulling people out of their mantras. Like, I want to explain this thing, and he goes off for 5 minutes explaining it. Like you as the leader need to be friends with all the people individually, like one-on-one, like pull them aside, have conversations with them, maybe go to lunch with them, try to schedule one-on-one activities with each of them so that you can kind of get to know them a little, so that you can, in the group, be like, okay, your point's going on a little bit. I respect you, and I like listening to you, and I like your opinion, but we just got to move on for the sake of everybody, that kind of thing. You got to be able to do that. And for that, you need a one-on-one relationship. So pick the most annoying person in the group who always carries on and says the most useless stuff over and over and over and over again, and like become their friend. Invest a little bit of time in them, go to lunch, go to a class, study together, play some duos together, whatever. Listen to them a lot so that you build a rapport, and then you can turn to them in the review and you can say, great point, I think we got it, let's go to the next one. And you can like help move things along. And I think those 3 things, I think that was 3 things. I hope it was 3 things because I'm just pulling that number out. We'll give you the best success. Thanks for the question, and I appreciate the call in. All right, I'm adding this to my station, so you can listen on the podcast in the app, which you can ask questions into, by the way. And then we'll jump into the next question. While we're waiting for this to upload, you should follow me on Snapchat, which is Mind Games Weldon, by the way. And we're 95% there, so you still have time to open up your Snapchat and follow me. Okay, that one is on the air. Let's go to the next question on plateauing.
Hi, Weldon. I have a performance question for you about plateauing. I'm a professional ballroom dancer, and I'm sure this question will be pertinent to esports as well, but I'm finding that in my career, I'm starting to plateau a bit, and I didn't know whether me and my partner should start changing our practice habits, or if there's any strategies in the performance psychology industry that people have worked on about trying to get over plateaus and what my mindsets should be. I've been trying to do mindfulness meditations and stuff like that, but I just can't seem to get over it. Hope to hear back from you. Thanks.
All right, I just figured out how to turn up the volume on that. Sorry it was so low to start with, but now I can fix it for future episodes. Okay, thank you very much for the question. So this is a bit of an outsider. It's ballroom dancing, a duo cue sounds like with a partner, and about plateauing. And it sounds like you've been competing for a while. So, oops, switch to answer there. I'm not going to answer this as a sports psychology trainer. I think that it would be unadvisable for me to try to comment on the neuroscience of this because I don't know the answer to your question. I want to comment on this from the perspective of a coach, somebody who's experienced plateaus, who's helped break through plateaus in 2 different sports, who's experienced plateaus in multiple sports, and who as a coach in League of Legends and in eSport has helped people break through mental plateaus as well. And my experience is very much like the best analogy I can give is weight training, where the thing that you have to do to break a plateau in weight training is to shock the body, shock the muscle. Generally, what happens when you're learning a new skill is you get the gross motor movements kind of refined in. Did I just lose my camera? Yeah, I just lost my camera. Is my battery dead? Sorry, guys. Let me change my camera battery. We are experiencing, technical difficulties. 1 second. Oh, people listening on the podcast, this is going to be hilarious. Just in case you're wondering, those of you listening on the podcast, anchor.fm, this is a live stream show that is recorded for YouTube, and there's a camera involved. You can check that out at twitch.tv/MindGamesWeldon anytime you like. And as soon as I have the camera back on, I'll continue recording the answer. Hi, I'm back, and I'm out of focus. Let me refocus my camera. There, now you can see my beard. Perfect. All right, back to the show. So, shocking the body, shocking the brain into, so you're building up a skill, you're building up a craft, right? And what happens is first you go through this period of gross learning. You're learning things like gross motor movement. Completely new neural chains are being built in your brain. And by neural change, I mean you don't actually grow new neurons, you grow new neural connections between neurons. You co-opt nearby neurons. You're building new pathways, okay? Then you get into the period of refinement where you are refining them. This is a much harder process, and you're moving them slightly to the side, or you're reinforcing the good one versus the bad one, which is literally right next to each other. So the refinement process is where plateaus occur. And one of the best ways of breaking plateaus is to just skip the refinement process and be like, I'm going to change my skill fundamentally, meaning you're just going to go to a completely different, you're going to remake a skill from scratch. You're going to be like, okay, I'm just going to redo how I dance. I'm going to redo how I move my feet here. I'm going to redo how we do our hold. I'm going to dance the girls' parts only for months. I'm going to completely change my serve and change my footing. I'm going to change how I hold the ball when I throw it up. I'm going to change how I lane by focusing completely on trading and not CSing. Whatever it is, you're adapting something or forcing your brain to like re-tackle the problem with a completely new neural chain, not by refining the current one. And this is different. I mean, you need to work with a coach for this, a ballroom dance coach, but this is different for every single sport and every single context and every single athlete. So it's so hard for me to answer for you, but that's the basic idea. And the analogy I want to give is with Russian kettlebells. Russian kettlebells come in a weight called pood, which is basically around 16 kilos. So you got one pood, 16 kilos. You do the weight around one pood, and you eventually get used to it, okay? Then you go to two pood, which is 32 kilos. It's a massive jump. The way that in modern gyms that you periodize your weight is you go like, I'm going to go 20 kilos, then 22.5 kilos, then 25 kilos, then 27.5 kilos. Your body is always just like slightly stepping up and is always accustomed to the old weight. But Russian kettlebells just shock your system. They go from 16 kilos to double that. It's like an exponential growth, right? And then you go to 3 pood, which is like a third again as much. So you have these kinds of systems that are, hang on a sec, I got to upload this and hit record again. You have these kinds of systems that like these weight changes that shock your body, and they force you to adapt, not just muscularly, but neuromuscularly. So in terms of your neurons as well. And this is very similar. This analogy, it's not biologically similar to how it works in the brain, but it is similar in terms of like how it functions psychologically with the brain and with learning a new skill. So that is what I recommend for breaking through plateaus. And sorry for the camera malfunction in the middle of the answer. And apologies to the audio-only listeners for that hilarious hiccup. That concludes our audio questions, and now we have 2 written questions, people who wrote into the app. Now, I do not encourage this. Obviously, you can write into the app if you like, but I would prefer it as an audio question because I want to hear people's voices. Like, people don't want to listen to my voice for 15 minutes. They might want to if you have some sort of ASMR trigger kind of thing. But I like to like add a little spice variety, like hear your actual question. So anyway, let's jump into the first one. Sluice Goose, age in esports. I'm 27, looking to start an esports career. Am I delusional? So this next question is from Sluice Goose. He says he's 27, and he wants to know about age in esports. Is he delusional to want to start an esport career right now? Okay, I don't have enough context on this question to answer properly because I don't know how good you are right now. But the first answer is no, you're not crazy, because 26, 25, 27, that's around the physical peak for the male body at least. So you should be basically hitting your fastest point. And as far as esport goes, reaction speeds don't need to noticeably decline for 20 years. So you can be just as fast. The main issue you're going to run into is training time. Like, you're going to start having hobbies, you're going to want to pursue social relationships, you're going to want to do things that require more time commitment than an 18-year-old would want to do. They're going to be able to pour all that time into the game, and you're not. So you've got to train smarter, you got to train more efficiently, you got to train better than people who are 5, 10 years your junior. and if you are not already having the foundations laid, so if you haven't been playing video games or MOBAs from, I don't know, from like age 12 or 13 or 14, you might never catch up to the people who are hemming in on 25, 26. The answer might be yes, you could go esports if you train all in like a 17-year-old from now for the next 6 years. Within 6 years, you would catch up to the current 23-year-olds who've been playing for 6 years super seriously, all in, and then boom, you'll be able to go pro. But do you really have the capability monetarily and the desire to sacrifice marriage and career and all of these things that you would be pursuing from the age of like 26 to 33, 27 to 33 to do that? So it's a really difficult question to answer. Biologically speaking, no, it's not too late. Practically speaking, it might be, depending on your history with video games and your current rank. If you're currently diamond and you're self-taught diamond, and you can get a coach, and you can train yourself up to masters or challenger, or even if you're mid-rank and you get a coach and you find out within 6 months you're able to get diamond and above and start getting up to masters and challenger, then yeah, I think this is a feasible thing if you can do it in your hobby time. Try to do 2 or 3 things at once. Don't just like all in on esport. That would be my suggestion to you. Sluice Goose. All right. That's going to be it for questions from the podcast. And now I'm going to turn to my one question from Twitter from yesterday before calling it a day. Oops. I do this all the time. There we go. All right. This is a question from Chad Markle99 on Twitter, and he asks, how do you build up stamina in a game? I play worse after like 5 games of tryharding. Really simple, really straightforward question. Excellent job asking that. And the answer is pretty straightforward. You don't necessarily. I mean, yes, you do build up tryharding in terms of your focus, your capabilities to like pull together your tiredness, but you still have the same tiredness. You still have the same stamina. Like, it's pretty hard to build up stamina in terms of your neurotransmitters. Like, what you're running out of is actual focus in the brain. You have to construct a neurotransmitter is a chemical that is built in your neuron, shuttled to the end, and then expelled out as part of a chain of events. Those don't just like magically pop up. Like, you don't eat neurotransmitters, you craft them. You have to make them, okay? So you start running low on these things. You start like superseding what the brain's focus level is. I mean, it's a resource just like anything else in the brain. And so you're going to run out of actual biological stamina for focus. We know this from a very interesting study that came out of, I believe it was Harvard, a Harvard lab, on decision fatigue, that noticed that people became more fatigued in terms of their decisions as they made more and more of them. So we know there's practical physical limitations to this. What you can improve, what you can train, is your capability to focus anyway, even though you're tired. And by the way, that's what the Mac program is all about. So thanks for this question. The idea of like committing yourself to a course of action despite the things in the way. So you have an annoying teammate. You have an itch on your nose. You have some sort of physical or emotional sensation that is distracting you from your focus, and you want to center yourself, accept the distraction, and commit yourself to focusing on your training despite you being worse, despite your reactions being slower, despite being tired, despite losing the game because you're 5 or 6 games in, despite it being harder and harder to deal with teammates because you're 7 games in and you're losing your lane now instead of winning, and they're harassing you and blah, blah, blah. Like, you want to commit to training despite that. That is what this kind of like program is all about, essentially, like mindfulness, acceptance, commitment training, which, by the way, you can check out on my website. It's a 49 video course that I put together to kind of replicate what I do with the pro teams, but without me involved, so that it can be scaled to more people. So that's your answer. The answer is that you center yourself and you realize, okay, I'm tired and this thing is irritating me more than it should, and that's fine. And I'm slower and worse than I would be normally because I'm 6 games in and I'm more distractible. But I'm trying to train this thing, and a little bit more training is better than no more training at all. So I'm going to keep trying, and I'm going to commit to ignoring this other thing by focusing really hard on what I'm doing. That's my definition of ignoring. You can't really ignore things like turning them off. You only ignore things by focusing really hard on something else. And I'm going to push through with my controllable attention. Attentional control is one of the hallmarks of the human brain. You can actually control where your attention goes. You can't control what you sense, what you experience emotionally, what sensations come into your brain. But you can control your attention. Most of the time you don't. Most of the time our attention wanders like a pig in a pigsty full of food. Rotting food. Delicious rotting fruit. Rotting fruit. But you can control it. And you can control it more the more that you notice it, the more that you practice controlling it, the more that you do the Mac program, for example. All right, that's the show for today. I appreciate you guys sending in your questions. Make sure to call in. Like this is the most important thing for the show. Now, if I'm doing it daily, I need new questions every day. I had 2 call-ins, 2 write-ins, and a tweet yesterday using hashtag AskWeldon. Perfect. We nailed it. We had 5 questions to dig through. I ignored 1 write-in, and I'm sorry about that, but I have you in the bank for tomorrow. And I have 1 other tweet from the same guy that I might have to pull out. But if you guys have a question, make sure to call in and tune in tomorrow when we record this live and when I put it on YouTube again. Until next time, enjoy the game.